So hey there everybody, I'm finally home from vacation. You all get so worried when I disappear. Like day 10 of my vacation, I started getting emails and text messages and Instagram DMs and YouTube comments. Where are you? Are you okay? What's going on? I was just away on a little vacation. I just needed a moment to de-stress, relax. I went down to Puerto Vallarta. You all know that is my favorite place in the world. My two daughters went down with me for a week. We had a little girls trip, and then my husband joined us the day before my daughters went home. So we had some great quality family time. I had some much needed quiet rest and relaxation, and while I was there, I did film, I think, content for 5 different YouTube videos. So when I got home, and I actually just got home yesterday, but when I got home, my intent was to start editing those videos and have them come out for you all. I did so many incredible, wonderful things while I was there, and I cannot wait to share it with you. However, this video is about what happened to us, a crazy story. 5 days before we were supposed to come home, something absolutely unthinkable happened. Something that you cannot make up in your wildest dreams, something that you can never prepare yourself for, something that almost ended really, really bad. It could have ended in tragedy, but I will tell you now, the story actually has a happy ending. I want you to know that up front because I want you to be able to watch this video not fearing that I'm going to tell you something bad, something horrible, something that something that you don't want to know. This story does have a positive, happy ending, but it is a crazy story. You are not going to believe what happened. So sit back, enjoy the story, but I'll tell you, get ready for a wild ride. Your emotions, just like mine were, are going to be all over the place. So like I said, we were in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. And while we're away, you know that our 3 dogs, Maxie, Lola, and Pollux, they always stay home. We have a trusted young gal. We actually have a couple young gals who will take turns staying in our house, taking care of the dogs, because we never board the dogs. I'd hate to ask my father or my sister or a friend to take care of 3 of our dogs. So it's best for everybody if they stay home. This gal that came over to live at our house and take care of them has stayed here several times before. Highly trusted young lady. And I'm stopping to think at this point because I just don't even know how to get into this story because it brings up a lot of emotions for me. This just happened just last week, so it's very fresh. And everybody in my small little town kind of knows about this. So I know that a lot of people who watch me on YouTube also live here in Paducah, who live in my community. So I have some words for you later in the video. But let me tell you what happened. On Monday, 5 days before we were supposed to come home, the gal was at work. The dogs were at home. I have a camera in my office which looks kind of at this view because when the dogs are home alone, they tend to hang out in my office, on the couch, in the floor, and the dog bed in the window. So I have a camera set up there and we can see what the dogs are up to if we check in on them. Well, we had not checked in on them. There was no need. I knew they were perfectly fine. The gal got home from work at about 10 minutes till 4. And Randy and I were with some friends. We were in the pool, enjoying the sunshine, having a good time. And my cell phone was in my beach bag. For some reason, I just happened to check my phone. And I saw that I had 2 missed calls back to back from this girl, which was very unusual. Normally, if she needs something or she has a question, she sends me a text. The whole time we're gone, she sends me pictures of the dogs and sweet little messages so that we know that the dogs are in good hands, and they always are. So I thought it was strange that she called me twice back to back, and I immediately called her back. And when she answered the phone, she was absolutely frantic. And she said, "Renee, I just got home. The front door is wide open and the dogs are gone. They are nowhere. They are not in the house. They're gone." And I had to stop and process that for just a second because my mind could not even register what she was saying to me. And I said, "What do you mean the dogs are gone?" She said, "I don't know. I know nothing other than I came home, your front door is wide open, and the dogs are missing. They have run out the front door, I guess, and they're gone." Well, I went into full on, and when I say full on, I literally mean full on panic mode. I yelled at Randy, who was on the other end of the pool. I said, "I have an emergency. I need you now." And he knew by the tone of my voice, he was like, "Whoa!" And he comes running because he didn't hear my conversation on the phone. I told him what the girl said to me. He luckily got on his phone. We're able to see the cameras from our phone. It's an app that we use, and the house is empty. We can see that the front door is wide open. The sun is shining into our house. There are no dogs. We can see the girl running around the house trying to find the dogs. She's whistling for them. She's calling for them. She's out front. She's out back. Nothing. The dogs are missing. So when she was not able to get a hold of me, she had already called my father, who lives just a couple minutes away. So during the day when she's at work, because the dogs need to go out and potty, my dad comes by mid-afternoon, lets the dogs out, gives them a treat, and, goes about his business. So she had already called my dad to see if he, for some crazy reason, had the dogs. And of course he did not. So by the time I got back in touch with her, my dad was already on his way over here. The girl had already called her mother, who also happens to live up the street. We live in a small community, and everybody is starting to converge at our house. So Randy was able to, because of this camera system and the app that we have, go backwards in time and see when the dogs went out the front door. It is the craziest, freakiest, most unthinkable thing. So you all remember in a video from maybe 1 or 2 or 3 months ago, Randy and I replaced the weather stripping seal around our front door. And the front door is now kind of hard to shut. You have to really force it shut and lock it. And on the day that the dogs disappeared, a crazy, random, huge, and I mean huge, gust of wind hit the front of our house, blew our front door open, and the dogs went out. So I actually have video footage that I'm going to show you all now so you can see exactly what happened. You can see Lola laying in the foyer in front of the front door. Pollux is here on the couch. And when this huge gust of wind came, it knocked the door open so fast that it bumped into Lola's back. She jumped up. It scared her to death. Pollux jumps up on the couch. You can see the sunlight. Thank goodness it was a sunny day. You can see the sunlight streaming in our house, and Lola and Pollux go out the front door. They run all the way to the end of our driveway. They stop, they look, and they take off in the direction that I normally walk them every day. So this actually happened at 1:30 p.m. and it was not discovered that they were missing until almost 4 p.m. So 2.5 hours, these dogs have been completely loose. They're anywhere. Literally, who knows where they are? I go into panic mode, but actually in the moment of crises, I can be very calm and collected. It is after the crisis is over that I have my meltdown. So in this moment, my dad had called my sister. I think it was my dad who called my sister. My sister grabbed her daughter, my niece, and they were headed to our house. So in the meantime, I am texting every one of my neighbors that I have in my phone. If I have a contact for them, I'm texting my neighbors. And I said, Our dogs are missing. The front door blew open. They got out of the house at 1:30. Please, please help me find them. So I call my daughter who's at work. She works about a 30-minute drive from our house. She left work early. She gets here. She's with my sister, my niece, my dad, and all the neighbors, and they're just searching and searching. And about every 30 minutes, I'm calling Brecken saying, like, is there anything? Is there any hope? Is there any sign of them? Can you tell me anything? And of course she can't. Like they're nowhere. They're gone. So after I'd contacted all my neighbors, I started messaging people that I knew who lived in surrounding subdivisions in our little small community town. So girls that used to work for me at the ice cream shop, my neighbor who lives about 3 subdivisions away that I walk with the dogs on a lot of days, anybody and everybody that I could think of that lived in my community, if I had their cell phone number, I was texting them. So about this time that the gal staying here realized the dogs are missing and all of this chaos was happening, the elementary school, which is about 2-ish miles up the street, was letting out. The buses were starting to run. And so the gal at our house contacted the school, got word to all of the bus drivers to be on the lookout for our missing dogs. Now, when I say missing dogs, thank goodness, well, not thank goodness, but in hindsight, I can say thank goodness that it was Lola and Pollux that went out the front door. Maxie, who's actually laying right here in his bed asleep right now as I'm talking, Maxie was in the living room on the couch asleep the entire time. He never knew any of this was happening. He never heard the front door come open. He didn't realize Lola and Pollux had left the house. He did not even hear the Amazon delivery truck who parked in front of our house. The driver walked to the front door and left a package on our doorstep with the front door wide open and left, who, by the way, didn't think that was suspicious and didn't contact anybody. Just note that. But he never heard a peep until the girl got home and came in the house and started whistling for Lola and Pollux. That is when Maxie woke up and went outside and then realized, something's not right here. The other 2 dogs are gone. So I am, oh my gosh, so I am beyond grateful for Maxie being a little old guy with not great hearing. Yes, sir, I said your name. He just looked at me. So thankful that he did not leave the house, because we believe if he had followed Lola and Pollux out the door, a lot of things could have happened. We don't think he could have kept up with them because we know we saw them with our own eyes. We saw them running. He couldn't have kept up. We don't think he would have been interested in whatever they were interested in. He would have, he's a free bird. He likes to do his own thing. We think he would have veered off and then gotten separated from them, and that would have been a whole another issue. So I don't even want to think what could have happened if Maxie had left the house. Just thank goodness he did not. So Maxie's in the house. All these people are starting to arrive at my house. They're roaming the neighborhood. There are cars everywhere. And I have a neighbor that calls me and says, Renee, I saw your dogs at 3 o'clock. They were in this neighborhood at 3 o'clock. So they got out at 1:30. They were seen in the neighborhood at 3. So that was wonderful news. But still, y'all, we have no dogs. And this is going on about 4:45. So my sister and my niece are at the house, and my sister came up with a fantastic idea. She said, create a flyer. We'll print it out here on the computer, and we will go around and put it in all the doors for all the neighborhood. We'll go up the street, put it in the little grocery store and the gas station, and we'll start getting pictures and your phone number out. So if somebody sees the dogs, they know how to get in touch with you. Great. So I go down to the condo. Randy and I are literally in full-on panic mode. We are helpless. There is nothing that we can do except for start calling and texting people, which Randy's in the other room. He is calling everybody he knows. I've already sent messages to everybody I know. So this is the flyer that I created and my niece printed out and started distributing to all of the neighborhood, places. And of course, I'm hiding my phone number and address here, but here it is. Lola Pollux, missing. please help. And they start getting distributed around our neighborhood. Well, pretty much everybody who lives in my neighborhood sees me walk the dogs every day. They know what the dogs look like. So as they were going to houses, the neighbors were saying, I know, I've heard, I know how to reach her, keep that flyer, give it to somebody else. So they started expanding into outer neighborhoods. In the little area of town we live in, about a mile and a half up the street, we go into a completely different county. There's a county line. We live very close to a major interstate. Lots of roadways. Our little subdivision's kind of tucked back away from those roadways, but if the dogs, were to get out of our subdivision, there's traffic and cars and lots of things. So at this point, my sister is saying to me, Renee, there are so many people driving around your neighborhood. Like, I have never seen anything like this. So my sister's outside. The girl who was staying here with the dogs is outside. They're directing traffic. They're telling people, spread out, get out in the neighborhood, go in all the surrounding neighborhoods, go onto the path where I normally walk the dogs, go up onto the major roadways and the highways and start expanding and looking for the dogs. So as time goes on, Randy and I are panicking more and more because it gets dark here at about 6:15. It is pitch dark. So time goes on. There's no dogs. No one has seen the dogs. No one has even a whiff of where the dogs could be. And Randy and I are thinking the worst. We're making plans to call the airlines to get on a flight the next morning to get home. The sickness you get in your stomach when you have a missing dog. That is all setting in. We're very upset. There were lots of tears, lots of consoling each other. We did know that Maxie was home. He was safe. He was put in the bedroom because so many people were coming in and out of our house, so we knew he was here, but it was Lola and Pollux. So at this point in the story, some of the facts might get a little bit sketchy because I got to tell you, Randy and I were so distraught. And the young girl that was staying here with the dogs was literally sick at her stomach, hysterical and distraught because of what had happened. And I want to stop right here and say, this was not her fault. She did everything right. It was just a crazy freak thing that the front door blew open and the dogs went out. It's about 5:15 or so. And I have a friend who I knew would be coming home from work. She lives in our community, not in our subdivision. And I called her, texted her, honestly don't remember. And I said, hey, this is what's happened. On your drive home, please keep a lookout for our dogs. I don't know if her son, who's a teenager, 16, just got his license, if he was in the car with her when I was speaking to her, or if she told him what was going on when she got home. But somehow or another, he knew. This young man knew what had happened. He knew a guy who knew a guy who knew a guy who had a thermal drone, a infrared, like heat-seeking thermal drone. And this teenage boy made phone call after phone call to get a hold of the also young man who had the thermal drone. This young man lives about 20, 30 miles from our house. He's not even from our community. I do not know him. He does not know us. He was at work when he got the phone call. He got off work at 6 o'clock and he said that he would go home, he would get his drone, and he would come help search for the dogs. So when all of this information is being relayed back to me from my friend who I had called, I don't understand any of this. Thermal drone, like what even is that? I have no idea. And she said that people use it when they hunt deer, because we live in a community, there's lots of hunting here in Western Kentucky. You can find a deer using this thermal heat source on these drones, and they're super expensive drones from my understanding. So Randy and I told our daughter, we just don't think they're close to the house. There's too many people searching near the house. Go into the next community, go into the next county and start looking. Go to the interstate, drive up and down the interstate, which I believe my dad had already done, but drive up and down the interstate and just look for the dogs. It is pitch dark at this point, and the boy shows up with the drone. He goes to a parking lot about a half a mile up the street from our house, so he has wide open space, and he puts the drone in the air. So as this is happening, I'm on the phone with my friend who was with her daughter, who has her son on the phone, who was with the boy with the drone. So we're all like have our phones together and we're all talking and listening. So my daughter's out searching. The boys are putting the drone in the air and just starting to scan. They are starting to scan the area. They're scanning our neighborhood. They're expanding our search. The drone had been in the air about 5 minutes and he saw the dogs. The drone saw what he thought was two dogs. So he had pictures of our dogs. We'd already sent that to him. And this thermal drone is smart enough to know the difference in a dog, a cat, a deer, a person, a raccoon. It can zoom down and actually take a very clear photo when you use the camera and see the dogs. And he said, I think I have the dogs. Hold on, I've got to confirm. So I'm listening to all this. Randy and I are holding our breath. Like you just have no idea. So the drone comes down and he confirms it is Lola and Pollux. Where are they? They are about 2 miles away from where the boy is standing with this drone. And the drone has about an hour of battery life. Then he's got to bring it down and he's got to change the battery. And luckily he had several more batteries. But the drone had only been in the air for 5 minutes and he found the dogs. So we're still all in this conversation together. I'm like, okay, what do we do? How do we get them? Where are they? The dogs were about another mile and a half on the far back side of our neighborhood into a completely different other neighborhood on private property, a huge amount of property that cannot be seen from the road because neighbors, even my dad, had driven up and down this road as far as he could go and never saw the dogs. So the dogs had taken off onto this private property, ran back to the far side of the private property, and the folks that own this property have a huge lake, and the dogs were on the far side of the lake. So my friend's daughter knows the people who live back there. I know them too. I just don't, have their cell phone number. She called them. They were out of town. She said, hey, this is what's going on. We're going to come onto your property to retrieve these dogs. Thank goodness they said no problem at all. Good luck. And I called my daughter and said, we have the dogs locked on the drone. So at that point, my daughter got on the phone with the young man and the boy with the drone, and they told her how to get to the dogs basically on foot because you couldn't drive your car back there. You could not see them and you could not drive to them. So our daughter and the gal who was staying at the house to take care of the dogs on foot abandoned their cars in the dark and listened to these boys who guided them through the woods basically back to the far side of the lake because we told the guys, don't approach the dogs. Pollux, you all know Pollux, he is skittish, he acts like a deer, he is scared of everything, he will run from you. Lola, I didn't know what Lola was going to do, so we needed Brecken and the girl to approach the dogs because if Brecken and the girl saw the dogs, we felt like the dogs would come to them. They had no leashes, no collars, no ropes, no way to capture the dogs other than them and their voice. So Brecken and the gal find their way back to the lake. They see the dogs, who are a filthy, muddy mess, by the way, and they call the dogs. Lola and Pollux look up. They see the girls, and they came running to the girls. So there was no way to capture them. They are still about a mile, almost a mile from our house. So Brecken and the girl ran all the way home, and Lola and Pollux followed them, completely off leash, followed them home. They ran in the door, shut the door, and the girl and Brecken called us on FaceTime, and Randy and I broke down crying. We were able to see Lola and Pollux. Everybody's crying. Everybody is just taking the biggest breath we've ever taken in our lives. I just don't even have words to tell you the emotions we were feeling at that moment. Brecken said she was going to put them on doggy jail. She was going to, give them the whatnot. And I said, the minute I get home, I'm going to just squeeze those little ears. But I was so happy. You have no idea how ecstatic I was. And that poor girl, oh my gosh, she was just beyond herself. Happy, relieved. We all were that the dogs were home safe and sound. When we were on FaceTime with her and she was showing us Lola and Pollux, Lola is literally exhausted, passed out. Like she lay down in the middle of the kitchen on her side and was just gone. Pollux was a filthy mess. They were both thirsty. They were hungry. It was 7:30 at night. They had not had dinner. They'd been out on their own. Thank goodness it was about 45 degrees and sunny, because y'all, if it had been freezing cold, if there had been the snow on the ground that we had just a couple days before, the ending could have been completely different. And like I said earlier, thank goodness Maxie stayed in the house. Maxie was in the kitchen with them, giving them the He was telling those dogs, you should not have been doing that. And funny thing is, during this time that everybody was out looking for the dogs, we were still using the camera to check on Maxie. He was standing at the front door, just barking. He was distraught. There were people in the yard. There were people coming and going. There were strangers. There was all this stuff happening, and he was just barking, because he knew something was wrong. And that was just his way of trying to help, I guess, to get involved. I don't know, but he was definitely pitching in and putting in his 2 cents. So that is the crazy story of Lola and Pollux and their day out. They were gone for 7 hours, missing dogs, in the dark. And I just have to say that I absolutely love my community, my neighbors, my little town, the friends, the family, the strangers that helped look for our dogs. Because the poster was up, and I'd actually made a post on Facebook that everybody was sharing, people were calling me saying, I'm looking for your dogs. I'm over here. Are people this way? I will go this way. Total strangers. Everyone pitched in to help find our dogs. And my heart is full. I thank you all so much. This could have ended really bad, and it didn't because of you all. So there is a little bit more to the story. A couple hours into this whole fiasco, a friend told me that I should post a reward for whoever finds the dog as an incentive to get strangers and people who don't know me to stop and help. So I did that. So many people helped and made this possible. From the neighbors who drove around, to my sister who went knocking on doors, to strangers who were searching and looking. But in the end, it really came down to the boy with the drone that found the dogs, a complete stranger who jumped in to help. I was able to get his phone number. I called him when he was home, and we had calmed down just a little bit. So we are giving him the reward, but we also decided to give a duplicate reward to the son of our friend, the son, the boy who called a friend, who called a friend, who called a friend, who got a hold of the boy with the drone. We felt like he was instrumental in finding the dogs. If he had not thought about the drone and taken the time out of his day to make all those phone calls to track down this other boy who owned the drone, I don't think we would have found Lola and Pollux. They would have been lost, and the story could have ended in tragedy. So I called them both. Randy and I did on speakerphone. We thanked them. They're good old country, polite Southern boys with lots of yes ma'ams and thank yous, and it was no problem, and we were happy to help. And I told them that when I got home and we got situated, that we would get with them next week and give them their reward money. It's one of the reasons I love living in a small town. Western Kentucky, Paducah, Kentucky. We have some really, really wonderful, kind, and helpful people here. So that's the story of Lola and Pollux and their day out, and this little sweet boy who decided to do the right thing and stay in the house and not get involved. Y'all, he is a hot mess, aren't you, Maxer? He was supposed to get groomed the week before we left on vacation. His groomer came down with the flu, so it has been almost 8 weeks since Maxie has had a haircut or a bath. He is a mess, but he's going this week to get groomed, so we'll get this sweet boy cleaned up. But that's our story. Thank goodness for happy endings. And now the rest of my videos coming out soon will be all about our wonderful vacation since we got this story out of the way. See you later.